In 1789, while the world celebrated the dawn of liberty in France, a darker story was unfolding behind the revolutionary banners. What if I told you that the French Revolution wasn't just about overthrowing kings, but about systematically erasing 15 centuries of Christian civilization? Tonight, we're uncovering the hidden atrocities that history books rarely mention. The deliberate campaign to destroy Gothic cathedrals, desecrate sacred tombs, and eliminate every trace of Catholic heritage from French soil. This isn't just vandalism. This was spiritual warfare disguised as political revolution. But what began as promises of religious freedom would soon reveal a much more sinister agenda. Chapter 1. The Promise Turned Betrayal. The National Assembly of 1789 promised justice and equality for all French citizens. Yet within months, their true intentions toward the Catholic Church became crystal clear. The revolutionaries didn't simply want political reform, they wanted complete religious submission. The civil constitution of the clergy forced priests to choose between their pope and their homeland, while religious vows were banned entirely. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what we're about to reveal. Church properties worth millions were seized overnight, transforming sacred spaces into government warehouses. The Assembly's moderate facade crumbled as they systematically dismantled centuries of ecclesiastical independence. Bishops were forced to swear loyalty oaths to the state, creating a schism that would tear French Catholicism apart. Even parish priests found themselves caught between eternal damnation and revolutionary justice. What began as promises of religious freedom quickly revealed itself as calculated persecution. The revolutionaries understood that to control France's future, they had to destroy its spiritual foundation. Every confiscated monastery, every banned religious order, every forced oath was another nail in the coffin of Catholic France. Yet this moderate persecution was nothing compared to the radical fury that was about to be unleashed upon the faithful. Chapter 2. The War Against Sacred Memory. By 1792, the mask had completely fallen away. Radical Jacobins launched what they proudly called de-Christianization, a systematic campaign to purge France of its Christian identity. Churches became stables for revolutionary horses, while crosses were torn from public squares across the nation. The very calendar was rewritten to eliminate Christian feast days, replacing Christmas and Easter with secular festivals honoring revolutionary ideals. Street names bearing saints' names were erased and replaced with revolutionary heroes. The Festival of Reason replaced the worship of God, while actresses posed as goddesses of liberty in desecrated cathedrals. Revolutionary committees roamed the countryside, forcing citizens to renounce their faith publicly or face the guillotine. Even wedding ceremonies were stripped of religious content, replaced with sterile civil contracts. The Jacobins didn't just want political power. They wanted to become the new priests of a godless religion. Every Christian symbol destroyed was replaced with revolutionary iconography. Every prayer silenced was replaced with revolutionary hymns. This wasn't reform. This was cultural genocide, executed with bureaucratic precision that would make modern totalitarian regimes envious. But the revolutionaries saved their most vicious attacks for the architectural masterpieces that had defined French civilization for centuries. Chapter 3. Destroying Beauty in God's Name. The Gothic cathedrals represented everything the revolutionaries despised about medieval France. These architectural masterpieces, built over centuries by countless faithful hands, were branded as symbols of superstition and ignorance. At Notre-Dame, revolutionary mobs mistook the biblical kings of Judah for French monarchs and systematically destroyed the entire gallery. The Cathedral of Saint Stephen in Sens watched helplessly as 11th century statuary was reduced to rubble. The magnificent Cathedral of Cambrai, one of Europe's largest Gothic structures, was for the destruction, treating these sacred spaces like military targets to be conquered. Stained glass windows that had inspired generations of believers were shattered for sport, while flying buttresses were torn down to sell the stone for revolutionary construction projects. Each fallen stone represented not just architectural loss, but the deliberate erasure of collective memory. For those seeking deeper spiritual connection with the saints who built these sacred spaces, our ebook, 50 Saints, Stories and Prayers, for divine intervention, contains the lives and prayers of the very saints whose statues were destroyed during this dark period. You can find it in our store below. The revolutionaries understood that beauty itself was their enemy, because beauty points the human heart toward the divine. Yet their war against the sacred would soon extend beyond mere buildings to target the very bones of the dead. Chapter 4. The Violation of Eternity. Revolutionary fury didn't stop with the living or their buildings. The sacred tombs of Saint-Denis, resting place of French royalty for over 1,000 years, were systematically violated by official decree. Royal remains were dumped into mass graves, while precious reliquaries containing saints' remains were melted down for their gold and silver. The Convention National issued specific orders for this desecration, treating the dead as enemies of the revolution. Ancient sarcophagi were smashed open with hammers and axes, their contents scattered to the winds. Centuries-old burial shrouds were burned in public ceremonies, while revolutionary crowds cheered the destruction of what they called superstitious relics. Even the bones of saints were ground into powder and mixed with lime, ensuring that no trace of the sacred would remain for future generations to venerate. The revolutionaries understood something profound. To truly kill a civilization, you must murder its memory. They weren't just destroying bodies. They were attempting to sever the spiritual connection between past, present, and future generations of French Catholics. By violating the eternal rest of kings and saints, they declared war on the very concept of sacred continuity that had sustained French civilization for over a millennium. But even in this darkest hour, the flame of faith refused to be extinguished. Chapter 5. Faith in the Ruins. Yet even in humanity's darkest moments, divine light finds a way to shine through. Hidden in countryside chapels and secret gatherings, French Catholics preserved their faith through the terror's bloodiest years. Priests celebrated Mass in forests, while faithful families passed down prayers in whispered voices. Underground networks of believers risked their lives to protect sacred vessels, religious art, and precious manuscripts from revolutionary destruction. The stones of destroyed cathedrals were carefully collected by believers who dreamed of future restoration. Peasant families buried statues of saints in their gardens, while noble women smuggled relics across borders to safety. Even in the darkest days of the terror, when the guillotine claimed thousands of lives, secret masses continued in hidden locations throughout France. The faithful understood that their perseverance was itself a form of resistance against the forces of darkness. When Napoleon finally ended the revolutionary chaos, these same faithful souls began the painstaking work of rebuilding what hatred had torn down. Their perseverance reminds us that while human evil can destroy buildings, it cannot destroy the human soul's connection to the divine. The faith that survived the revolution's fury would eventually rebuild the cathedrals, restore the statues, and renew the sacred traditions that seemed lost forever. This triumph of faith over hatred holds lessons that echo through the centuries to our own troubled times. Conclusion. The French Revolution's assault on Catholic France reveals a timeless truth about the nature of spiritual warfare. When ideologies seek to replace God with human reason, destruction inevitably follows. The revolutionaries believed they were creating a perfect society, yet their legacy includes some of history's most senseless cultural vandalism. Today, as we witness similar attacks on religious heritage worldwide, the lessons from revolutionary France become more relevant than ever. The Gothic cathedrals that survived this period stand as silent witnesses to both human cruelty and divine resilience. Every restored statue, every rebuilt altar, every prayer whispered in these sacred spaces represents victory over the forces that sought to erase them. The revolutionaries tried to kill God in France, but faith proved stronger than guillotines. If this hidden history opened your eyes to truths you've never heard before, please share this video with others who need to know. Subscribe for more untold stories of faith under fire. And remember, the stones remember what history books forget.